Hey, everybody. Okay, we're seeing a few of you come on into the webinar view, so thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Anna Tyson. I'm the Chief Revenue and Innovation Officer for the Texas Restaurant Association. I'm going to be helping out with Yvonne and our two chefs here today and doing some of the Q&A portion of our webinar. If you have a question during the webinar, please use the Q&A window, and I will take a look at it and make sure that it gets addressed by our chefs either during the conversation or after when we're towards the end. If you have any technical issues, use the chat window to chat to me, and I'll see what I can do to help you as well. I'm really excited to present this webinar today with you guys, and I'm going to kick it over to our Director of Education, Yvonne Loya. Yvonne?
Okay, I had to unmute. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Yvonne with the Texas Restaurant Association Education Foundation. First and foremost, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Escoffier for all their efforts in assisting our Texas ProStart teachers in transitioning from traditional classroom teaching to teaching virtual online courses. And we're super excited to be partnering with them on not only this initiative, but future endeavors as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's presenters, Escoffier's Chief Academic Officer, Miles Mitchell, and Senior Lead Chef Instructor, Tyson Holzheimer, for an overview on delivering virtual content. Miles and Tyson, whenever you're ready.
All right, great. Howdy, folks. So I'm just going to give a kind of an overview of how we do things here at Escoffier and how we make this this culinary education happen on an online platform. As many of you probably know or don't know, the bulk of our student population always has been, or at least recently, for the last couple of years, has been online based. Okay, we do have ground schools in Austin and Boulder as well, which those folks recently moved to an online platform with us. But the bulk of our students are online, so we've done this for quite a while, and we've had great success with it. So I'm going to share my screen with you and kind of just go over the basics of how we do things. And Chef Miles, feel free to jump in whenever and interject as you need to.
Yep.
Okay, so just to kind of give you an overview here we do have each week the students are given a cooking assignment along with some assignments that involve knowledge checks and quizzes and things of that nature. So with these cooking assignments, we have these nice videos that we have made that kind of walk them through what they would need to do. And our chefs have made these videos, our chef instructors have made these videos, and they kind of they're not super lengthy. Most of them are 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes long. And what they do is they give the students an idea of how they're going to be doing the work. You can see here, focus in knife cuts here. We walk them through the process of cooking different recipes. A lot of them have recipe cards associated with them too that we can look at. So again, this is just kind of a snippet, a brief overview of how they're going to be preparing these items. With that, then the students will go out, do their own shopping, and produce the dishes to the best of their ability based on the recipes and the videos. Now, we also have a couple different ways that we assess these students. So we use a rubric, production sheet, narrative reflection, and a flavor wheel. I'm going to go over those so you can see those. So production sheet's pretty straightforward. This is just a student kind of setting everything up, getting organized, how much of the ingredients they needed to purchase, how they purchased them, what unit of measurement they use there from the grocery store, techniques they're using. Techniques are really important to us. Again, these are demonstrated in the videos, which I'll go back to in a minute. And they're also talked about in a lot of the materials that are on the class page. And then they kind of just make general notes, some things that they encountered maybe while they were shopping, or some things that some issues that they had compiling everything before they start the actual production or during the production. Narrative and reflection sheet is a cool one. So this is where the student actually goes back and reflects on what they've done and what they've learned throughout that cooking process. So they'll go in and they'll talk about issues that they had. Maybe they had difficulties controlling the heat. Maybe they had difficulties with seasoning. Maybe this was a dish. A lot of these folks haven't, cooked really anything before. And so they're saying, I had no idea this was going to be like this, or I've never worked with mushrooms before, things of that nature. Okay. And this is all going to be listed on this narrative reflection sheet. I have an example pulled up of that narrative that I can just show you. Okay, so this is in one of our intro classes. This is chicken fabrication and knife skills. And so up here you'll see expectations or concerns. Knife skills, working with knife skills. This is a big one for our students who haven't worked with chef's knives before and done a lot with knife skills. Holding the product carefully when they're doing the julienne. Whole animal fabrication is something that we do, and so working with the whole chicken and figuring out how to do that, that's a common concern as well. And so the students can list that out here again in this narrative. What can you do to improve your preparedness? Our goal here is that the students progressively get better here, and that we see this category or this area kind of evolve as the student moves through the program. But this is a basic narrative sheet, and they're filling these out for every single one of their assignments as they go through the program, once again. Let's see, go back here. I'm going to show you a couple other things. Flavor wheel. Flavor wheel is a big one too. We talk about this in the narrative sheet. So this is the Escoffier flavor wheel. This is what we developed to give the students an idea, basically help them with their vocabulary culinarily, so that we can speak to the way things taste, the way things smell, and the way they feel in your mouth. This is a really important part of what we do, and a really important part of doing this online, obviously, right? Describing the flavors they're experiencing as they eat the food. Okay, so again, they use this, and then they use a lot of this verbiage back in their narrative reflection sheets. Okay. I'm going to jump back here. Any questions that came up in the chat or anything yet? Or are we good?
Nope, nothing yet.
Keep on rolling. Awesome. All right, jump back here to these videos. I'm just going to actually show, I have a couple things. So I'm going to show this risotto video. Again, these are all just short clips and just to kind of demonstrate what the students are going to be working on. We have one of these for each of the recipes.
Risotto is a classic Italian dish that's a common menu item for many different reasons. For one, it requires just a couple of ingredients. Its preparation is also easy and relatively short. Risotto is able to be par-cooked, stored, and then finished to serve. Risotto's flavor and texture lends itself to a number of different variations. To make risotto, first we'll add the fat to a large sauté pan over medium heat. We'll add the onion and sweat until soft, but not brown. Next, we'll add the rice and sauté until it's well coated with the fat.
These are all made by our chefs, our online instructors, so there's familiarity there with the students and the chefs as well.
Now it's time to add our stock. We'll add 1 ladle of hot stock. And stir constantly until the rice absorbs the stock. Once absorbed, we'll add more hot stock. As the rice begins to absorb the stock and we agitate the rice, it begins to release its starch, and that's how the risotto creates its own sauce. We'll continue this process until the rice is tender but still firm. It should be saucy and creamy, but not soupy. This will take around 30 minutes. Once we've added enough stock to get the rice tender but still firm, saucy but not soupy, we can turn off our heat. We'll stir in some more butter. Season with salt. Parmesan cheese. Once we've got that butter and cheese in there, we are ready to plate. The risotto should settle on the plate. It shouldn't run. Of course, more Parmesan cheese. Because of its versatility, you can tweak the flavor of risotto with any number of ingredients. Shrimp, lobster, chicken, and a variety of different vegetables all make excellent accoutrements. Risotto is a delicious and decadent dish that lends itself well to several different menu and restaurant styles.
Cool. So that's basically, as far as demonstrations, that's really all we do. We want the students we really encourage them to make mistakes. We encourage them to learn from their experiences. And so these videos are just little snippets of kind of a brief overview of what they need to be working with. So once they get that far, then they will go in and they will start through that process. The students are going in and taking pictures of the entire process. And I have, yeah, go ahead.
We got a question from someone from Jesmarie Spraga, who asked, are these videos something that we share? So you might want to make it clear how people can access the videos too, and then go in to talk about, what the students are expected to do.
Yeah, so I'll take that question. So what Escoffier did is we created a site for high school students, for high school ProStart students to access. It's on our escoffier.edu webpage. The student, we're providing that information. So Anna or Yvonne will be able to share that link with you if you don't already have it. And you'll go there, and all of these videos, these are all from our Culinary 101 class, our Culinary Foundations class. It's the entire suite of videos and recipes. So students will be able to work through all of that content. It's free and available to all the ProStart high school students. The only thing they'll have to do is just fill out just a comment card, so to speak, at the beginning of the page, and then it'll open the page up for them. The other thing I was just going to say is Tyson was showing that right now through Zoom. So the audio and the video quality wasn't perfect, but when you view those directly through the computer, that audio and video quality is really crystal clear. So, yeah.
And Miles, just to add to that, we did send a link out to all the educators last week. Just email me if you didn't get that link and I'll send it back out.
Okay.
Cool. Other questions right now? Or?
I have one question on the video you just showed. So if you're doing a dish like risotto, well, not me as an educator, but should our educators maybe give a brief history of risotto before they start the video and then have the students demo that, or what would you suggest?
Yeah, it's always a good idea to know the history of the dish and the origin of the ingredients. It gives you something to talk about at the top of the class, and a great way to lead into what the dish is all about, where it comes from, how it originated, how it's evolved over time, where the ingredients come from, whether they're from native to the Americas or some other part of the world. That's always a nice way to launch into any recipe or dish that you're going to be working with.
Okay.
Yeah, and the way we make that work is like our classes, our actual lectures would be on a Wednesday. Our weeks would start on a Wednesday, and the chef would introduce topics for the week, and it would cover the history, the details, and things of that nature. Some things to look out for as they're producing that risotto or whatever it may be, and then send the students off to go ahead and produce it on their own. I was going to show you all was there another question?
Yes, actually there is. As a teacher, Johnny says, as a teacher, I always introduce the dish and the students know about it before they try to prepare it. So it's more of a comment really, but yeah, is that included on y'all's videos too?
Yeah, so again, we cover that in our materials on the class page and in that live session, that live lecture that we do, as opposed to just in these brief videos. The videos that you have access to here are really just a brief demonstration more than anything else. Okay, and as far as the students, what the students are working with, this is an example from one of our chef instructors of the process of submitting their work and what we kind of assess. So you'll see here, this actually, we'll scroll down here. This is the risotto assignment actually. So the process, we're having them take photos of the actual process as they go through it. Right, the rice, adding the butter. Multiple photos are required in order to complete the assignment properly. And this actually includes 2 recipes. So this chef has done our carrot vichy recipe as well as a risotto recipe. But as you can see, this allows us to really analyze and accurately assess everything from start to finish. Okay, if the result, if we just have them take a picture of the end product and we saw, something that looked off, it would be really hard for us to tell, oh, was their heat too high? Was there too much butter? Did they use the wrong rice altogether? Things of that nature, which do happen. And we can see that because we require them to take this kind of step-by-step photo. So.
And the way that feedback is delivered is the faculty use an application called Vidyard. And with using Vidyard, they would open up that folder like you just saw on shared folder on Google Drive, and they create a video. So the faculty member is talking, you hear your chef's voice, and you're going to see them opening all of your pictures and all your photos and talking about them one by one and pointing out the things that you did well and the things you still need to work on. And so that's like a 3 or 5 minute video that every student receives on a weekly basis, going over the assignment that they turned in that week.
We did get a question here. Is there a perfect time length for videos?
Perfect, I would say shorter is typically better. We know that students don't have, maybe they don't, attention spans are a challenge. So I would say that about 3 minutes or so is probably a good length. In some of our pastry classes, we do have longer videos just because the techniques take longer to explain. So we do have a small number of videos that are longer than that, but I'd say most of our videos are 3 to 5 minutes.
What about an introductory lecture to that recipe?
We typically try to keep those 30-ish minutes. A lot of our classes tend to go closer to an hour, but I think 30 minutes is really the ideal time frame for that.
Yeah, and it's usually 30 minutes of lecture where the instructor is explaining the week, maybe talking about what happened the week before, explaining this week, and then the last half of the class is typically a question and answer session. And then, of course, the students are completing this work independently and then submitting it after they go to that class session. And additionally, they have readings that they do. They complete knowledge checks online, submit that. So they have quizzes that are being graded. They also have discussion boards that they participate in. That's the other part of the educational experience.
Okay. And just a quick announcement to our educators, just to go along with the Escoffier videos, National Restaurant Association Educational Foundation has just shared that they will be releasing the online resources, the e-text that we're using for ProStart here as soon as I make the announcement with all the links. And so you can actually use that e-text to align with the videos that are featured here and on the platform as a reading component.
And Tyson, I was just wondering if you could go back to the main page with the videos. Maybe we could just kind of walk through the different categories for the instructors.
Of course, yeah. Give me 1 second here. Find that. Okay, yeah, so we start here with the basics. Sanitation, which I don't know if you saw in the photos I sent, but every week, any assignment that we give to the students, they are required to demonstrate proper sanitation, sanitizer bucket, clean chef coat, etc. Mise en place is a big one we focus on, keeping everything organized, having all your seasonings pre-measured out in little cups. Anything that we need to stage out is already staged out and ready for them. And then this just covers kind of knife skills and basics. And the way this is set up is similar to how our classes are set up. So this is basically our week one of our intro class, our intro cooking class covers all this information, right? It's really focused on knife skills and again, kind of the basics. Moving on down here, soup, sauces, and stocks. So we cover the mother sauces down here. We talk about some different soups. Down here is starch cookery. Protein cookery. And again, we're doing a little bit of all these in that intro class. The more advanced stuff we end up doing later in the program after they're through that first 12 weeks. Plating's a big one, especially for a lot of our students aspiring to, work in higher end restaurants and things of that nature. The plating aspect's very important. Sauce work, making the food look beautiful on the plate. And that's it. Miles, you're muted. What'd you say?
I was just going to say the assessment tools, the rubrics and the flavor wheel and all that stuff. The links to those are at the very bottom of the page. So right down here where it says assessment tools. So you can link to all of those materials there at the bottom of the page.
Great.
And you can use those tools or not. You can adapt them to your class, whatever works for you. They're just provided for you to adapt and use as you see fit.
Okay, I did get a few questions. Are all of these lesson components easily posted to a Google Classroom?
Yes, so we use the lesson components. As far as materials, as far as videos.
Amber, are you, yes, she said yes.
Yes, yeah, so any of this can be uploaded into Google Drive very easily. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, like if somebody were doing the work and then submitting it, I don't know about like the actual video content that we have here is housed on our site. So I don't think it can be transferred as far as like the actual video content, but we work in Google in terms of the way students submit their work, if I'm understanding the question correctly.
Okay, we did have another question. Will these videos be available throughout the year?
Chef Miles, that's a you question.
Yeah, they're available right now. I don't think we set a time limit on these materials. We plan to have them available for as long as it's needed to help people through everything that's going on right now.
Right.
So, yeah.
And we are working with Escoffier on a larger partnership that we can roll out to Texas ProStart educators later on in the year, and maybe partnering with them in our initial onboarding of educators so we can offer these lessons year round.
Yes.
And then one more question, are you meeting online together with all students weekly as a group or just individually?
In a group. But Tyson, you want to talk about that a little more?
Yeah, so we send out like we have reoccurring Zoom meetings, and so the students can log into those Zoom meetings at a specific time each week. We have usually most of our classes have 2 a week, and then we also record those and then post that recording back to our class pages so that the students have access to that really throughout the time they're in the program. They can go back and watch archived links back to 20 weeks later or 20 weeks after they've actually completed the class. So
Yeah, and it's a little different with most of our students that are in our online programs. Most, not all, are adult learners, average age about 29 or 30. So they may have a little bit different life schedule than a high school student, obviously. So some of them are available for the live session on a weekly basis, and others need to watch the recording. One thing that we've done with our students from Austin and Boulder, who are ground students, and typically you're more typical right out of high school, college age student, we're holding our class meetings at the same time every day, and meeting every day with those students to keep them on schedule as we go through this, the period that we're going through right now where no one's able to meet in person. So we're working with those guys to maintain this as normal a schedule as possible.
That's good. One question I have is, how do you keep your students engaged and dedicated or interested?
So between the live sessions and the materials we post, and we have the videos that we showed you, we also have supplemental videos that the chefs make that help to engage and inspire them. And then we do a lot of outreach to our students, with one kind of seemingly obvious downside to being in an online platform is that we don't have that personal touch with students. And so the way that we create that and the way that we make that happen is our chefs are calling and messaging and emailing and texting students, daily. And so we get a hold of people. We can see who's been active in the class and who hasn't, even before assignments are due. And we focus a lot of our energy on trying to engage the students who we don't see in the class, who don't see on the class page. So we're focusing a lot on that. The students will often reach out to the chefs and say, hey, I'm working on this at my house, texting the chefs, and the chefs are pretty responsive quite promptly about getting back to the students and helping them out. So,
yeah. We also employ a student success coaching team to work with all of our students. Currently, we have well over 4,000 online students, and in addition to the students from the Austin and the Boulder campuses. And so we have a student success coaching team that works with our students to help them through, think of it as like counselors, basically. It's just helping them through any life issues that may throw up a barrier that's going to maybe prevent them from being successful in school, and we help them work through those things.
Can you also walk us through the flow of content for lesson planning? Like, would you start with maybe sending out a calendar of topics for your for your students, and then following that sort of as a syllabus, and then maybe scheduling your Zoom meetings all ahead of time if Zoom is a platform of your choice? Then obviously you said Wednesdays were your lecture days. So can you kind of walk us through the flow of all that?
Yeah, so I would say we structure it just like you would a regular class, where students receive a syllabus. And then within the learning management system, we work in Moodle is the one that we work in, but within the learning management system, every week of the class is its own subsection. And within that section, it's divided into different categories. So you got your research section where you're doing readings, you're watching videos, and then you're doing some quizzes. And then you've got your discussion section. The discussion would consist of meeting in class, doing Q&A, and also doing actual discussion boards. And then you have the experience section, which is actually doing the actual cooking assignment at home and turning in that work. So this is all laid out in advance. The student gets it at the beginning of the term, and they can see the entire class from week one all the way through the last week of the class.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend, in your case, setting up the Zoom links in advance and providing that entire calendar to the student so they can plan that out, so they'll know exactly what to expect and when to show up.
See a couple questions in the chat too. Carlos asked how are assessments done if students don't have the resources. Carlos, if you're talking about ingredient sourcing, certainly we've been that's been something we've been addressing more recently than any other time. We work well with the students to allow them to make substitutions as they need to, and we have a lot of students, for example, who are vegetarian and aren't comfortable handling certain meat items. And really our program is really technique driven, and our assignments are technique driven. So especially now and recently, our goal is to get the students to demonstrate proper techniques and go through that learning process more than anything else. So.
Yeah, and then Mark was asking if we've had any issues with Zoom. I'd have to say we've been really lucky. Over the years, of course, there's a lot more people on Zoom today than there were 4 weeks ago. But over time, we've never had, I don't know of any reported issues of any outside like Zoom bombings or things like that. And we have a code of conduct for our students within our classrooms that they have to adhere to. So.
Everyone's set up to, all of our instructors, are required, and all of our accounts are automatically set up so that the students, their videos aren't automatically turned on and they're automatically muted and things of that nature. So we have a fairly strict protocol for that, setting that up. Yvonne, you're muted.
Oh, you're on mute.
Okay. If you're not familiar with Zoom as an educator, which most of you are, but I would just set up a test call with someone to make sure you go through all the buttons and bells and whistles, just to make sure you know what you're doing when you're conducting that Zoom call. I do have one more. So if you can't see your students face to face, how can you tell if they understand the material? Just through the feedback they give and the videos and all that? Do you have conference sessions with your students?
Yeah. So once the students get the feedback, again, as Chef Miles was saying, that's all based on that Vidyard system. The students can message the chef, they can text the chef, they can call the chef with any questions. We do focus, again, if we have students who are really struggling with an assignment, we're going to focus a lot of outreach to that student and make sure that they are resubmitting. We encourage resubmission of any of their work. Try it again. You struggled with this, and this. Please resubmit it. Let me know if you have questions, things of that nature. And then we do have an open forum in every class too, so the students can go in, post questions, chefs can respond, students can respond, so that can be very interactive as well.
Mm-hmm. And we do have the Zoom sessions like this on a weekly basis. It is in a group, but you do have that face-to-face time, at least virtually, on a weekly basis. And students can also set up a one-on-one Zoom session if they'd like to. And so typically if a student reaches out, if it's more than just a quick reply through email or text, and the student would like to discuss a little further, the normal course of action for our faculty is say, okay, well, why don't I just set up a Zoom call, and then we can speak to each other face to face like this. So it facilitates better communication.
Okay. Sounds good. Does anyone have any other questions?
Doesn't look like it. Cool. Okay. Well, there'll probably be some questions whenever we do this again, or we put up the recording. I'll turn my video too. So thank you guys for joining us for this. I think that was really helpful to have you point everything out, and to Escoffier as well as a whole. Thank you so much for making this resource available for our high school educators. I know it's going to make a world of difference for them. And thank you as well for that email address so that they can call or get a hold of people and ask different questions. I think that's going to be really helpful too. And thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you all for having us. Appreciate being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Bye.